Hello, good evening, and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of our The Wasted Hour podcast. This is Martin, and for this episode, I met with designer Jun Li during Paris Fashion Week. Jun is one of the most promising designers coming from Shanghai, and I'm very happy to have his label at our The Wasted Hour shop. With each collection, he's able to tell a story, and each one of his designs is very unique and special. So at the No Season showroom, we talked about growing up in Shanghai, how his cousin got him into fashion, studying fashion in China and later on in London, and of course launching his own label. Make sure to check out the collection at our shop on thewastedhour.com. Thanks for tuning in, I hope you enjoy. So welcome back, everyone, to another episode of our The Wasted Hour podcast. Today I'm sitting in Paris at the No Season showroom with Jun Li. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you very much for taking the time a second time, because the last time we did the interview, the audio file wasn't good. So I'm very glad that we have another opportunity today. My first question for today is, because you grew up in Shanghai, if you remember the first time you came in contact with fashion.
I think that should go back to when I was around 4 years old or like 5 years old.
That young?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I remember like during that time, my dad was kind of working for a factory which like manufacture like American and European like fashion brands. Yeah, he is more like consulting and management for that factory, but it's not his like main business. And my elder cousin, she's really like good at drawings. So when we were young, we had a time to live together, and she was kind of teaching me how to draw, and we watch like the movies, like we read the books together, and then we start to copy the images like we saw. And she's really good at that, and I was just, because I'm younger, so I'm kind of like copying what she was doing. So after that, like my dad saw her drawings, and everybody said, oh, maybe you could be a fashion designer in the future, because you're really good at like drawings, and also you're more creative, like in a way. So I think that was the first time I heard the words like fashion designer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get deeper into the fashion topic? Like, how did you look up stuff, or how did you dive into the fashion world?
I think when we were young, actually, the internet was like really not that easy in China, because we had that development time, and the only thing we could get is the like animation books and some like Japanese, magazines, like so. This is easier for our childhood, so which we've been like influenced a lot from that culture, and she is really into that. So definitely I was following that, and she's practicing the drawings and in her way. And I think after the junior high school, she's kind of like made a decision, maybe she wants to be a fashion designer in the future. But I think because when she was young, the family gave her like this kind of idea, maybe you could do that. That's why she's kind of into that way in some way.
Yeah. You once said in an interview that you had a lot of different interests when you were like a kid.
Yeah.
And that at some point you decided like to go for one interest and be really good at it. Out of curiosity, what were the other interests that you had besides fashion?
I think she is mostly doing in sports, and I think drawing is over fashion during that moment to her, in my opinion now, because in that time I think we don't have too much knowledge about what fashion is It's just because we are good at drawings, we like clothes, we trying to cut something by ourselves, and that's something like we think it's fashion, but actually fashion is much more complicated than that. And because in China we don't have too many schools that we can learn this thing about. The only chance is like the college entrance examination. If you pass through that, if you get the right mark, and you can finally apply for one of that. And I think she's kind of like made her decision, but finally in the end, because the mark was not enough to apply for that school, so she didn't make it in the end, which is like at the same time I decided to do that when I was young. But during that time, actually, I'm having lots of other focus as well. Fashion was one of my definitely interest, yeah. But it's not like kind of a career I'm looking for, because I'm a consumer during that time. I'm trying to make myself like different from the other kids, and that's all the teenagers wants to do during that time. Yeah. And I was actually really into dance during that time, and I practiced a lot, and I was in a crew in China during that time, and I was thinking maybe I could be a dancer in the future, or like because for the dance part you definitely not only dance, you still have the performance part. So I think maybe acting would be a direction as well. And also I'm really into movies, as you know that so much like inspirations from my collection came from different movies, and that's the best thing I was really loved into when I was in teenage time. Yeah.
So what was the initial point that you started and set out to become a fashion designer?
The initial point, I think in my opinion, and I know her so well because we grew up together, I think that time, like most of the kids in China were really lost, because what we've seen every day is the books in the school, and we are not allowed to go out, we are not allowed to get some like other informations rather than what we should learn in school. So it's really like restricted, and I think she doesn't know like what she really wants actually, but she was thinking maybe this thing could be something she loved, rather than find something she didn't like in the end. So I think that's the key idea for her to choose that.
Yeah. And for you as well, like when you said it,
I think for me actually I was I think over very well before I made the choice. First of all, I think fashion is more complicated than the other thing I was learning at the same time. And for dancing, I think even if I didn't go to the college to learn, or like I didn't go to any kind of organization in the future, I could still dance. I could still practice, I could still develop from my side, because once you learn the foundation, the rest is for you to develop from yourself. That's more from the sense part. That's more the idea how you use your skills. But for fashion, definitely you need to practice for the skills first. And I think this is something I could not learn by myself. You either learn from work or you learn from the school. But if you never entered into the school, if you never trained the basic skills, it's impossible for you to get a work from that. So that's why I think dance could be one of my hobby or interests for the whole life, because I could dance anytime I want. But if I want to be in the fashion business, I definitely need to go in the official way.
Yeah. So it was already during school that she set out to reach the mark to go to college afterwards?
Sorry again.
So it was already like during school that you focused on a good grade to get into college, afterwards to learn fashion design?
I think she just had a like very blurred idea,
Yeah.
not very clear, because we're not able to get too many information, and because she was like 4 years elder than me.
Okay.
I think that 4 years like really developed a lot for the internet in China. So that's how I'm like easier to get information than her, because for her period of time it's really difficult. Yeah.
So after school, you went to study in Shanghai as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and then like after I read that after some semesters you changed over to London. Why did you decide to have to move to London to study there?
I think because the first stage for me to learn is definitely like to learn in China, because that's much easier for me. The good part is I choose a school which has both the Chinese tutor and also the French tutor. The French tutor are more like teaching us from the pattern cutting, draping, like design, this kind of professional skills. And we also learn the Chinese way to do pattern cutting and sewing stuff. So for me, actually, it's quite interesting, because I'm learning the same skills from two different, two different countries. Yeah, great. Which is really helpful for my understanding about the skills in making garments. But after I think after the second year of the school, I feel that it's a little bit like disappointed me in some way, because most of the like schoolmates, classmates, they were not that eager to be in the fashion industry. The reason why they entered in the school is because their mark is suitable to enter in this school. And for the Chinese education system, it's really competitive, so everything need to pass the test first. So it's not really sometimes our first ideal choices. Yeah. So then I feel a bit like lonely in the way, because I don't feel the competitive, I don't feel the pressure when I learn the things. And the tutor always saying, oh, you are doing so good and you are so focused on this. Then I start to feel I don't think I'm so good during that time. I feel, because I'm using the internet to check the others' work, and I think their work are really amazing, and they're much more advanced than me. So that's the point for me to maybe go to the next stage. And I think it's time to go, because I learned my skills already, and then it's the time to develop the sense. Yeah.
How was it for you personally to be in London compared to Shanghai? I guess they're both like totally different cities.
I think culture-wise, it's definitely like so different.
Yeah.
But I think when the first time when I went to London, there is still a bit like culture shock compared to Shanghai and London. But now I don't feel too much about it, because Shanghai has been like developed so fast. It's very international, and it's very urban now, and we can basically like having kind of say similar urban lifestyle. So at that time it was quite like different.
Yeah. Can you tell why it has changed in Shanghai, and why and when did it start to change in Shanghai to become more urban?
I think Shanghai has been like a key point to China things after 90s, and the government really spent lots of money and time and strategy on in Shanghai. And after I think 2000 maybe 6, and Shanghai start to develop like really fast, because I was in that period of time. I remember like during 2000 to 2006, I'm a kid really eager to find fashion stuff or like find something cool, but it's definitely like impossible for me to find anything in China. The only thing I could do is I have to go abroad. I have to go to Japan or I have to go to Hong Kong. Hong Kong may be easier for me because it's just easy to be there, and Hong Kong has more like multi-brand shop during that time, and for China it's different. But after 2006, I think things are changing, and also more foreigners are living in Shanghai now, so that's why, and people are investing to Shanghai more than the local nowadays. Like I know like many Italians and French, they open like bread shops, restaurants, like even like lifestyle shops in Shanghai.
Yeah. So going back to London, was it during your time there that you started to launch your own label, or was that always was it later?
I think the time would be the second year when I was in London College of Fashion.
Okay.
It was like being really a surprise for me, because for the second year we have for each year actually we have 3 terms. But for the second year we have 2 terms, and the last term was for kind of like a gap term, so you can go to the like other companies or like studios to do internship. So everybody goes to the designer studio or kind of big companies to be assistants. For me, actually, I did a different choices, because before I went to London, I tried to persuade myself to do something I don't like, because I think I know that I'm going to do my label in the future, but not sure like when. But I think the first things I have to learn something for how to run the business and how to understand the structure of a fashion label is. So I went to one of the biggest fashion company in China, and I was being a design assistant in the company. And that company is like really commercial and also really big. They have like over I think 500 stockists like in the world, and maybe like I think 1/3 are running by themselves. Yeah, so it's really big, and that was the first time I learned like how the structure of a company should be, especially how they run the fashion business. But obviously, like I hated that way, because I think that's a bit like too commercial, and sometimes is too much structured, so which makes people are bonded, I would say. Like you couldn't like really do more creativity things. It's kind of like too commercial for me. So after the second term in my school, then I start to think. I think I know like what's going on there, and obviously I know many like designers before I went to London, so I know how does the studio run as well. So finally I decided to go to a factory to be the internship, because I think that would be more interested for me. And also during that time I was thinking one thing very important is design is definitely not a difficult job for a designer, but the production would be a very painful like problem as a designer label, because you don't have a strong team for you to handle all these production problems. So at the beginning you have to know like how you're going to do by yourself. So I think to learn the experience and learn the progress, how the factory goes, would be much more helpful than me. So I choose the bespoke tailoring factory to learn how to sew and to learn how to control the production and to learn there's how they develop the finishing of a garment. So that really helps for me to know more how to make the product perfect. So during that time, I was working in the factory at the same time, and also I spared my rest time to make few pieces. Actually, it was just for fun, for like practicing, not for something I was expecting be a collection or something. So I started like for 2 looks, and then I think maybe I could do more. So it has been developed to 12 SKU in the end. So I was thinking maybe I should show these things to some of my friends, and when I brought it to London, and one of my friends, he is a buyer actually, and he went to my flat and checked my collection, and he said, "Wow, your collection doesn't look like a student's work. It looks quite well finished, and it looks you have a certain point. Why not you go to Paris Fashion Week and open a showroom and invite some buyers?" And I said, "What is a showroom?" I said, what does that mean? I don't even have any idea about that during that moment. And then he told me, just be relaxed. You can just bring the collection and rent a flat and send few emails if people want to come and check. Just let them check. Don't make it too serious. And then I was thinking, yeah, maybe I should do that. Then I really did that in that summer. So I wrote 5 emails to invite the buyers, and one of them replied me. He said he will come and check, and after he came, and he said maybe I gonna ask another of my friend come together, because I think it was good.
Yeah.
So 2 of them came, and I was just really having no idea what's going on, and I just tried to explain what I did and what I learned and how would I let them understand about my collection. But after a while, and they told me shall we start? And I said, start for what? And they said, we want to order the collection, we want to sell in our shops. And these 2 shops actually are quite famous in the city, and they are quite iconic for this kind of designer brands. So which is a really huge step for me. And at that time I don't even have a company actually. So I said, can you wait for 2 months for me to register my company first? And they said, do whatever you want, we will support that. So I started in that kind of way actually.
Which year was it?
Sorry?
Which year was that? How long was that ago?
That's that collection is spring summer 15.
Okay, wow.
So yeah, it's already 5.5 years ago, I think. Yeah.
So obviously in the past 5 years, you've come a long way, because I discovered you, I think, exactly 1 year ago here at the showroom. And from the beginning, I was also drawn to your clothes by just the cuts, the colors, and the fabrics. So I can totally understand the other buyers as well, that they fell in love with your collection too. So what I also fell in love with was that each of your collections centers around a theme or a moment. For example, the autumn winter was the Twilight Samurai. How do you find these moments? What is the moment that you say, this is something I want to build my collection around?
I think technically, we all been trained to have a method how to make the collection, because that's what we learned from the school. We started from the research, and we have our brainstorming, and we have our initial ideas development. So that's the technical way how we do the collection. But for me, I always kept in my emotion part of being a designer, because I was a dancer before, so I have a special feeling about the atmosphere, and I think that's really important. Because, for example, if today I'm gonna perform a dance for you, when I was on the stage, when I close my eyes, it has to be a world surrounding me. Otherwise, I couldn't express these things to the audience if I can't imagine by myself. So for me, there's always a specific moment when I want to deliver that kind of concept to the audience. So when I was designing the collection, first step is still the technical way. I do the research, I do the subculture, and I do the thing I want to, develop the collection. But in the middle, I will start to mix all these informations together, and I try to merge them, and I try to imagine with music, with maybe the temperature of the room, with the details, informations from the inspiration, all together. What could it be? What kind of space it can present? So that's kind of my idea.
Yeah. I think that's really great, because I think a lot of people can design just a cool piece, but a piece that has a history or some sort of inspiration for the customer itself, that he can take something from it, is really rare and really special. And that's what I'm feeling too, looking at your collections and wearing your clothes. So I'm a huge fan.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We talked about before that we both are way more busy now during Fashion Week, and for you it is also because you've launched your first women's line, and you showed it in Shanghai last year. When was the point that you decided to expand it also to womenswear, and why?
I think the first idea to design something for women was also a very occasional chance. That was the collection of Autumn Winter 17, because I would love to build a story for that collection, and we need a women's character in that photo shoot.
Yeah.
So I did maybe 3 to 4 looks for women's, just to feel the story.
Yeah.
And after I did the pieces, and because that thing was only for the photo shoot, I was not meant to sell it to the shop or something. So we didn't really develop the pieces separately. We not maybe choosing women's fabrics, or doing some special prints or texture for women. We're using the same materials from the men's collection. And when I finished the thing, actually my sales agency, he said okay, I think this thing is good. Why not you present in the showroom? And said, okay, maybe we should, if we have enough space. Then finally we rent a bigger showroom, and we have a little corner for the women. So some of the buyers, they checked the collection and said, this is great, can you sell to us? Actually, we think could be great for our women's customer. So we did sell to them for a few pieces, and the final feedback was really, really good. Because in Europe, some of the shops actually do sell our men's collection to some women's customer, because they feel some of the pieces could be unisex, or they think when they wear the men's could be really cool.
Yeah, we did too. Some of the women bought the hoodie, as well, and it works, like to have
Yeah.
its interwoven.
Yeah, and I think some of the women, they are looking for something more men's structure, because it will like being more kind of cool for women, not only like the feminine kind. So that was the beginning of that idea. So then the second time was autumn winter 18. I did the same thing, and we still like sell to few shops. And after spring summer 19, that was the first season. I did a small kind of exhibition and like a showroom, kind of trade show in Shanghai, because I never showed the collection in Shanghai before. And that was one of the owner of the biggest trade show in Shanghai. He was my friend. He said, "Why don't you do something in Shanghai? Because Shanghai is quite popular now. Maybe you could do that." But you know, the schedule of Shanghai Fashion Week is like 1 month and 2 months later than Paris Fashion Week. So for me, I think it's difficult to show the men's again if I already showed in Paris, and most of the people they already seen it. So that's why that time we did like a few more SKUs for women's, and that collection goes quite well actually in that exhibition. And people start to ask me, maybe you could do a women's line. And it's just until the last season we finally like did a show and a full collection with 100 SKU for women's wear. Yeah, that's the long development progress. Yeah.
But it really paid out, and congratulations for that, because you sent me the pictures of the runway, and it's so strange for me because at the same time it's totally new for me, but I see the Jun Li signature as well, and that's exactly what I want to see. It's something like new and fresh, but also keeping the signature line. So I'm very curious about how that's gonna develop as well. You were speaking about Shanghai before and how that developed, like in general, and now there's like a fashion show in Shanghai as well. How has the fashion scene in Shanghai developed in the past years?
I think now it's getting more and more popular, and more brands from Europe, from America, from Japan, from Australia are showing Shanghai as well, because people start to realize China is a big market, and we are opening more and more multi-brand shops in China. So I think it's a world focus now. So for me, definitely like this is my hometown, and I will definitely like do something there, because before, as I told you, because we are not having too much like men's like multi-brand shop in China, so it was like difficult for me to show my collection there. But now if I have the women's wear collection, it will be something I feel more related to that. Yeah. And I think the Shanghai Fashion Week, the volume of Shanghai Fashion Week is getting bigger, but the quality of Shanghai Fashion Week is also getting better than before. We are opening like lots of brands every year. Before, maybe not all of the brands are that sophisticated or like creative than compared to Paris Fashion Week, because we are not, having such a long fashion history before. But now I feel some of the local brands, they're doing really, really well. Depends on the commercial sense of Chinese people, and also rely on the manufacturing resource in China. That's why the products are being like made in a high level standard, I would say. Yeah.
So having launched a women's wear line as well, and now menswear of course too, what's up next for you and for label? Where do you see Jun Li personally and the label in 2 years?
I think personally, like I'm kind of a little bit like old fashioned, so because I was Grow up like reading magazines, like following all these famous designers, stories. So I'm kind of obsessed with 90s. So that time was more, I think, more easy and much more pure than now, because people are just focused on one thing, and if they really make an effort, people start to know you. People start to know you step by step and more focused on work, not only like you or something. But now I feel the world is changing. The way people knowing a brand or like knowing something else are changing. They have to know something else first, then they will switch their focus on the work. That's the I think that's the internet has changed our life. So before, to be honest, I don't really do too many like interviews, or like I don't take pictures. Normally I would like really focus on my work only. But now I feel maybe in the future, I should be stand more forward than like staying behind of the brand, because people need to know like what I'm thinking about, what I want to tell to them. They have to know like what exactly the designer is thinking. Then they will like get into my fashion world after. So I feel that would be kind of the direction I would love to go in the future. So that's why maybe we will have more collaborations, or like even more different kinds of product in the future. And also I was collaborating pottery products during Shanghai Fashion Week as well, because we made a little pottery tray for the gifting during my Shanghai Fashion Week show. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
So I'm really honored that you do like the interview, and I just had to smile because like I'm at the same point, because like when I started out doing the wasted hour and you asked me before, I always wanted it to be just like the things that I'm interested in and never be about myself. And now like at this point some people keep like asking, oh, who's behind the wasted hours? It was a huge step for me to launch these podcasts that people can hear my voice, and I've never like published a full picture of me like with the wasted hour as well, and never marketed myself as a person, because I always thought like I would let my work and like other people speak for me. But I think at the same time I was always like so fascinated by other artists like in the 90s as well, and like from strong persons. Not that I want to compare myself to them, but like that I need to step out too, like, and show what I stand for personally. And I think that just made me smile that you were at the same point, like getting out of that comfort zone too. So yeah, very much looking forward to everything that you have in the pipeline and going to release in the future, and of course for the new collection that I'm going to see now. And I want to thank you very much for your time, and look forward to everything that's going to happen in the future.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.